And so the rainy season of 2012 was miserable for the people who lived along the coast of the River Niger. First, there was a heavy rainfall, over 110 millimeters of rain. And then the Lagdo Dam in the Republic of Cameroon was opened, reaching a peak of about 0.6 meters above emergency levels, causing an increase in the volume of current along the coast, which greatly increased the flow velocity of the water. In addition to other communities affected, over 30,000 households of the Patani local government area was affected, overwhelming the town and village drainage systems. Now, that also resulted in widespread plural flooding, displacement of people, food shortages, and an interruption to their economic livelihoods. Well, hello and welcome. This is 60 Minutes with me, Angela Ajetumobi. Thank you for joining me on the program today. Now, in a couple of months, my host's tenure as a caretaker chairman of the Patani local government area will come to an end. He's a former president of Ekiyor Youth Council and had contested for a seat in Nigeria's Federal House of Representatives in 2011. He's also a member of Nigeria's Medical Association. He was appointed chairman on November 12, 2012, perhaps as a result of his efforts as CEO of the Rural Africa Health Initiative, which helped to manage the flood disaster, setting up a flood victims emergency relief camp, which took off on October 2, 2012. Well, it's been 2 years since that flood. I'm here to find out from Dr. Ekiyor how he has fared since then. How have the people of Patani gotten their groove back since that flood? So, join me after the break. I'm counting down 60 minutes with Dr. Chris Ekiyor, the chairman of Patani local government area of Delta State, one of the 25 local government areas that make up the state. Welcome back. Welcome, Dr. Ekiyor. Thank you very much for coming on 60 Minutes with me.
Thank you, Angela. It's my pleasure.
Thank you. Now, let's start from the flood. I talked about that in my introduction. In the long term, since that flood, I know that initially there were palliatives in place. All those homes that were submerged, people who were displaced, has the local government council been able to replace those homes, build new homes for the people?
I'd like to take this from pre-council. I have always been in emergency medical services since I graduated, and I've always tried to be a first responder in cases where you have medical emergencies, natural disasters, and we deal with the health issues. So we have a background of that kind of service delivery. The flood started, and we heard about it first in Lokoja, and then Auchi, and then Asaba. So I called my team and said, look, we don't have to wait, we need to move into Asaba. So we prepared to move into Asaba. And somebody called me and said, the flood water is hitting your house in Patani. And I said, you mean we have flood in Patani? He says, okay, so we have to start with ourselves.
Yes.
Get to the community and tell them, look, they should all begin to evacuate and move to the highest point. I grew up from here, so I already knew the highest point would be on top of the bridge and some new road where they have elevated far above sea level. And then we set up and built tents, and we got volunteers. Of course, we have a long chain of people who volunteered, nurses, doctors, builders. We set up some temporary camps, and it became the resting place for most of the people who were displaced.
Yes.
Because by the time government could realize that they need to evacuate people, the flood water had overtaken communities. Because it would start like in the morning, and by the evening the whole place is flooded. It didn't leave you with the time to even pack anything. So government properties, individual properties, community properties were all submerged in the flood. Now I can tell you that almost 6 feet. That flood I could get drowned in it.
It was higher
than me. So people were living with boats around them, but that new road they were constructing, NDDC project had elevated the road to the level where you need to climb the Patani bridge. It was really high. Yeah. We set up tents, and then we ran out of materials, and we started using polythene bags to build tents. And the citizens also got proactive. They had to fall back to the ancient way of building homes, so they took palm fronts
Yes.
and created makeshift. And so we just needed to provide them with mosquito nets and
Yes.
beddings and all that. It was a wonderful 36 days, and we got used to living.
26
Yes, we
days.
got used to living there because it became a communal life again where there was no enemy, no hatred. The people suddenly realized that they need to work united. But the challenges were there. No food. We were running out of medication. There was no potable water. We saw people, children, playing in those flood waters. So I took a boat and went around just to see, took clips, and I found out that most of the septic tanks were already busted and flowing up.
Because they were underground.
Pressure. Boreholes were back flushing and just pumping water themselves. And the hospital walls have given way. So bodies preserved in morgues too were displaced. So we made effort to move them over and above water the best way we can, working with the mortician at the hospital. And then we raised an alarm to the government that this is happening. And then the governor proactively responded, directing that certain things need to be done. But we were there for the first 30 days without help. We did that as community workers, and then I got a call from His Excellency who said, "Are you saying that there are people still living in Patani?" Because he got an impression by the people in government that everybody has been evacuated. And I said, "You can't evacuate 56,000 people residing within the local government. You probably will do those. There are those who will not leave even if the flood is going to be over and above. They will stay on the roof." And those are the ones who are responding. So he sent the deputy speaker to come in and provide some medication. But we got our greatest support from the ex-militants. They put some resources together and bought medication for the entire region. Right. And I was responsible for distribution. So we benefited from that process. Others were individuals from here who were out there and gave water. We actually attempted, and we succeeded, to sink a borehole on the east-west road because it was the only place available.
That wasn't submerged?
That wasn't submerged. It was just below water, and we drilled deep down and we found clean water. Good enough to cook and bathe with. But we were not sure if it is not already also polluted or contaminated. Yes. So we insisted that we still need to bring water from outside. So we used to go get sachet waters from recognized bottling companies. Now, ending with the flood, it also went the way it came. On the 36th day, water started going down, and by the 40th day,
it disappeared.
Everywhere was dry again, but there was nothing left. Even reptiles were all dead. If you walk into the town, it was like a ghost yard, because every green thing was gone, every living thing was gone. How those animals, I mean, even in the camp, we dealt with reptiles, snakes and all that. We had to fumigate, we had to make sure people are protected. We killed a lot of those. So maybe those ones who survived are regenerating themselves. But now you can imagine that almost everything is starting again like after Noah.
Afresh.
Afresh. And then the farmland's gone, food preserved at home gone, no business. The people here are predominantly fishermen and farmers. They couldn't fish. You fish, you sell, then you buy. You farm, you sell, then you buy. Now there was nothing to sell or buy. So when I got appointed, just about then, to take over mantle of leadership here, so I already knew the challenges. First, we need to do a post-flood assessment. We quickly looked at that and realized that we need food, medication, we need water. The local governments are washed with boreholes everywhere. People own their own. The government has cited over 50 in different communities. So we took 20 as a prototype and reworked those 20 in the 16 communities. And then we went to the major waterworks and got it started and tried to distribute water. But we also found out that all the distribution pipelines were broken. And we needed about 50 million to network it. And that was a utility board's responsibility. So we stayed back and we sunk 10 new boreholes to cater for the health centers and certain public places, including schools. Now, we haven't solved the water problem. The hospital had given in. Roofs collapsed, certain areas. So the doctors knew they couldn't continue to work there. They tried to adjust, just in case there's an emergency. But we had to step in and renovate the 10 health centers to make sure that immediately people can fall back to the primary healthcare centers. And we upgraded a few to take the status temporarily of cottage hospitals. Now we also kept back the volunteers who were already doing medical care, because while we were in the camp, we had an ambulance that we converted to almost a mobile clinic. We took 13 deliveries and all those babies are alive and doing well. We dealt with post-flood cases of diarrhea, typhoid, skin, dermatitis and all that.
I was told though that the flood is yearly. Around October, the tide rises.
Here in the deltoid area, what we saw at the 2012 flood has never been experienced in the last 50 years, not anywhere around Nigeria. In fact, it's the first of its kind. Now, we hear that there's a 50 years before then they've had an experience. But like you rightly mentioned, there were a couple of factors. Left for the rain alone,
Yes.
people could have still moved their properties up and managed to stay over. But the Lagdo Dam also complemented the challenges. What we call flood there is usually small overflow of the riverbanks into communities. You usually don't get into people's homes.
Yes.
Just maybe the gutters are overflowed.
Yes.
The field, the school fields, you can play football or soccer. And then, of course, as the rain are going away, they go away with those floods and you get back. But in this case, the whole community became an ocean. It's like looking at a tsunami and you see houses half covered, half sunk. Any vehicle that was in this town was underwater. I rode a boat to my house, up to the balcony, and then climbed from the boat to the first floor to check what was
because there was no ground floor.
There was no ground floor. You couldn't walk into the first to just check what was saved.
Yes.
Those things were able to move from the ground floor
to the upper
top floor. And everybody who had a story building became a warehouse for anybody who could save anything. But the people recover, and the recovery process is still going on, because you can imagine somebody who built a house 10, 20, 30 years ago and is here now, can own a home. So the trauma is there. The post-traumatic effect is still being managed by the government. And we try to provide some stipend for some. We try to continue to provide Medicare for others. And up till date, the Medicare is still free in our health facilities. Now, the following year, we did the same thing. We continued to provide cassava stem, plantain tuber, and then the government also sent in items that were distributed. And when they are distributed, we matched the government's agricultural product with financial grants to enable the farmers get back to. And looking back now, we've started producing food again. It's self-sustaining. And Patani local government did not stop there. Electricity was broken down. I did call PHC and I said, look, we're back. We need light. And they say, we're working on it, but if we follow the due process,
you'll
maybe
be there
we'll
forever.
get light in March. You will get light, and that was November. So how do we bridge this gap? About 16 poles are down on the east-west road. Within your community, a number of poles are down because they're wooden poles and old. The one that is in crossing the pole, those connectors are down, and the insulators are down. And I said, okay, give me an estimate. They brought that estimate. We funded. We went out and bought those things, handed it over to them to replace. And then they powered the community in the first week of December.
Wow.
So the people had electricity throughout December and January, and we paid the electric bills for 6 months, paying about 2.5 million naira to NEPA in the first 4 months, and then we had issues of epileptic supply. We negotiated, and so we went to pay 1.8, and then after 6 months, the people had to take back the responsibility of paying their bill. The government premises where we were to work, the law says government business must be done within government premises, not within Chris Ekiyor's house.
Yes.
We got there and found out that apart from the dilapidated buildings, the paperboard furnitures were all soaked in water, so they collapsed. So there were no tables, no chairs, except some old metal cabinets. The air conditioners were bad. There was
Those
only
metal cabinets will rust as well.
They were old and used. The air conditioners, except for the legislative floor that was tiled, every other floor caved, got cracked, and so you could see gaps between the walls and the floor. And reptiles were popping out from those gaps. Snakes, lizards and all that, and we didn't know how safe it could be. So it motivated us to embark on a fumigation program. And then we realized we must fumigate all the schools, all public places, all residents. So we were doing ours until then the state government also sent the environmental ministry to come and intervene. And then they did that, they left, we continued because it was a continuous thing, monthly, and then until we stabilized.
Yes.
But seeing that the legislative hall that was tiled and the only tiled infrastructure did not suffer the impact of the flood.
Yes.
We took a decision in ESCO that every floor in the council needs to get a tile over it in the renovation process. So we remodeled, redesigned, reconfigured the offices, start to finish. We also noticed that they were still using asbestos as roofs in some of the old buildings.
And that's outlawed now in developed
long
world.
ago because of asbestosis.
Yes.
So we had to de-roof. And in de-roofing the asbestos, we found out that those woods too are gone. So it was a case of
rebuilding.
And it was more expensive to even remodel and rebuild than starting a new one.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we had no land space, and we would not leave the old ones abandoned, even if we were to build a new one. So we took those bold steps, reworked the entire council. Today, Patani local government is prided as one of the most ambient and work-friendly office space that you can find. Those who have come from Asaba, including commissioners who have offices, have said, look, these offices are work-friendly. But in all of that, we dealt with also schools. We had to go back to the schools and support to provide those years, support to provide accommodation for corpers to remain in school because their housings were affected, support to provide water supply in schools, and then also fumigated all the schools. and got the children back to the classroom.
Yeah. All right, we'll take a first break now. When we come back, we'll talk about the challenges of running a local government system in Nigeria. So join us again after the break. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, it's 60 Minutes with me, Angela Ajitumobi. On my hot seat today, Dr. Chris Ekiyor. He's the chairman of Patani local government area. Now, the challenges of the local government system. I'm looking at Patani because it's on the boundary of Delta and River states, with a little bit of Bayelsa thrown in as well. Driving down here from Patani, we passed through all these states. Does that present any peculiar problems for you in the local government?
It really doesn't. We're a border town, but border town only because the National Boundary Commission used the river Focados as a natural boundary. Okay. We probably could have been in Bayelsa.
If that river wasn't there?
Yes, to be part of the Ekiyor state. The irony of it is that that river divides Patani into two equal parts, the residential part of Patani and the farm settlement. So we own the other side. Perhaps the farm settlement is the undeveloped part of Patani.
Right.
And so we are gazetted as a local government in Delta State. Our farmlands
is in
Bayelsa. So we have to cross over to go to farm. Cross over. Incidentally, development is such that some farmers have now started building homes there. So we have Patani residents in what we call the new Patani in Bayelsa under Sekbama local government.
Yeah.
However, Patani is in Delta State and has 16 major communities and small hamlets and farm settlements. It is predominantly Ekiyor, with admix of a few Robo-speaking Ekiyor communities. I use the word Robo-speaking Ekiyor communities because there are Ekiyor aborigines who maternally are Orobo and are comfortable with speaking their maternal language. But they are Trakri people, and they are in 2 wards. We have 10 federal wards here.
Yes.
Where we are now is the local government headquarters, Patani. And governance in Patani, it's been challenging because of where we were coming from.
Right.
It's 17 years as a local government created from Bomadi. It's predominantly a civil servant town, and the people are almost all working in the local government.
Almost everyone is employed
in the local government.
That means your wage bill will be high.
For Patani, if you juxtapose the wage bill and the federation account, then our wage bill is about 80% of what we get.
Yes.
So it may not be as big as what you're having in Warri South or in Lagos Island in terms of wage bill, but it's the entire money that we get that we use to pay salary. So it's everything for us. If we get 100 million, for instance, and about 36 of that goes to teachers' salary, we have
teachers alone.
Yes, and then we have another 61 going to workers' salary, or 63 going to workers' salary. Then we are gone.
Yes.
And sometimes you are left with $1 million or $2 million to now do administrative work. So how do you build infrastructure? And there are times then that the allocation shoots up to 120, and so we have 20 million to put in projects because we have this recurrent that is almost fixed between borderline of 100, 95 and 96. So once we have something above that figure, we have some funds
to work with
capital projects.
Yes.
And incidentally, when we resumed, the governor had reinfected certain savings of the Shaw P 2012-2013 amounting to 76 million for some local governments, 56 for some, and we got those monies. I got 56, but we used that for capital, human capital development, because we knew that the people needed to get back
on their feet.
Yes. And then we got what he called the excess code that was saved, about 75 million. That was what we used to jumpstart the reworking of the council infrastructure. Of course, it cost us about 360 million to get to where we are, and we've been paying incrementally to do that. And if you look around and you see the other projects which we have done also, you know that we took a bold leap, knowing fully well that revenues are anticipated.
Yes.
We are budgeted for, they're not there. We planned ahead and got the things done, some via direct labor, some via contractors, and then we have been consistent in paying, incrementally. So we have no issues with our contractors and no issues with work which we have done. And I think that we've paid for most of the projects completed. We're owing a couple of projects that have also been completed.
Yes.
We hope to pay as much as we can. Government is a continuum, and if we leave, we expect those who come and meet what we have done to pay.
To continue
We
that.
also came and we paid a backlog of certain jobs done that we're satisfied with met the criteria. Sitting here now, I'm looking back, I also would like to I feel like withdrawing some of the criticism I'm giving to local government chairman in
the past. Because I was going to say to you that, a lot of you local government people always say there are insufficient funds. But some people will say, yes, it will be insufficient because there's corruption there. Sometimes we've heard cases where family members are paid impress as well. So people will look at that. Everyone thinks that the local government chairman is one of the most loaded politicians around.
Yeah, I think I also used to think in the same vein. And I say to myself, what a pity that information is not in the public yet. And the truth is that the local government chairmen are usually afraid to talk.
Because of the governor?
Because they are usually feeling that by speaking out, they will be confrontational with their governors or with the system. But I have a governor who has encouraged people to speak up. And I've also said that I do not see local government as anything to die for in terms of aspiration.
You're not going to be aspiring this October?
So no, I'm not running. I will not aspire. I would never have aspired to be a local government chairman. It was a clarion call to serve, and I'm grateful to those who look at it and brought it, and I have done my bit.
Yes.
And I have done it in such a way and manner that posterity will vindicate me. I have also set a new pedestal for those who will come after me. And I'm sure if our people are sensible, no local government chairman will come here and do it differently because they will ask questions. It's a new pedestal of doing things transparently. We've had town hall meetings. We've declared finances to the local government people, what we have gotten, what we have used it for, what we are owing, and why we are owing. And people understand when you explain to them with statistics and you show evidence why you're not able to do certain things. In time past, before I came here, local government chairman would be very unreachable. Yes, I do have police
not accessible at all.
I do have police orderlies. I do have other, but those are just paraphernalias of office. I'm still accessible to the people. I've kept my office open all the time for the people, and I listen. And there are always two things. Okay, we can deal with this now, or later, or no. And those are the options, and you need to be frank with it. Sometimes they don't like me for being that frank. They think that you are
a bit of arrogance.
Why will you say no? And I say, why should I deceive you when I know I can't?
Yes.
It happens sometimes with myself and members of the transition committee will disagree. An agenda needs to be driven. We've agreed in principle. The fund is not there. And I say, well, I wouldn't do this anymore because the fund is not there. And they say, you don't have the right. And I say, well, I wouldn't borrow to do it. And they say, I'm arrogant. And I say, but that is the way to run government. Run government within the available resources. Now, I don't believe that local government can be so easily corrupt as people say it.
Yes.
Corruption is a function of how much more free money you have to play with. And local governments do not have those monies. Even if you are a corrupt person naturally, it is a function of how much loose money you can play with. You can't play with the workers' salary. They will bring you down. You can't play with security
So
issues.
if you have to pay out of 100 million, for instance, and 90-something% is going to salaries, what is left
then
to
maybe
be
you have
corrupt
about
with?
6 million, then you take it home, and then everybody will ask you have not paid workers' claim, you have not paid impresses, you have not fueled the council generator, you have not bought newspaper, you have not bought stationaries, you have not fueled your official car. So it's almost impossible. Now, I'm not saying that certain local governments don't have funds.
Yes.
Urban local governments that are self-sustaining perhaps will have money, surplus money, where they are able to generate IGRs massively in hundreds of millions. So they can embark on projects. They can also, if they want to be corrupt, because corruption is a function of the individual. It has nothing to do with APC or PDP. So you can see, and it is very practicable, people who are PDP governors doing very well, or APC governors doing very well, not because they are in PDP or APC, but because it is in their nature, in quote. So I don't see it as party banners. I see it as individual, and that's what makes the difference. You can come to the local government and say, okay, I want to steal money, and you start looking for a means to steal money. It becomes your distraction. I didn't come with that, so I have not found money to steal. If I love to steal, I have not even found money to steal. There is a criminal element in everybody, trust me. There is a criminal element in all of us, but it becomes it's the level or the degree of criminality that you exhibit that makes you a criminal.
Yes.
So if your good overrides your negative, you probably tend as a good man. I have been here doing what I can to be a good man. So looking back, I can tell you without any doubt that I have actually spent more of personal funds for my private
Running
business
this office.
to live as a chairman, possibly not to run the government office, but beyond government office, people expect you now to do so much, and the government office cannot provide for it. So you cannot begin to explain to an old man, for instance, who has come to your house and say, my child is sick, I need 100,000 to pay this and pay that. Or a schoolboy who had said, I've been driven out of school, chairman, please, I don't have a father or a mother. And you say, government has no money. Chairman, but you have now. And you say, no, you can't give. So you have to go to your private business and
take from
leave the status which government has bestowed on you. And that's what has happened. But until and otherwise, teachers' salaries are taken out of local government as a burden. Local governments will not have money. Some
do
local government like
anything.
Warri Southwest will get about 150 million and teachers will take 126 million for salary. So the man doesn't even have enough to pay his regular worker's salary, let alone to do development. And this kind of local government would need to do massive environmental sanitation because of the amount of waste that is produced every day. Even in a local government like ours, where people still control their waste within their premises,
Yes.
when we go out bi-weekly to evacuate, the amount of waste produced by individuals is overwhelming. So we from the flood, we knew that we need to keep evacuating drains, evacuating the environment because of the future. Particularly when there was a projection of another flood last year. I can imagine a local government that will spend over 10 million monthly for environmental sanitation, because you have to engage PSPs, and then you have to evacuate, manage a dump site, and then it doesn't have money to pay workers' salary, like in Warri Southwest.
Yeah.
We are able to pay salaries here. We are able to generate small income from the council's allocation to manage by every 2 weeks environmental sanitation thing. One is the national, which we do the last Saturday. The other is the local government, which we do at the mid-Saturday.
Yes.
And then we do what is called reinforcing the individuals to do proper disposal of their waste, even within their premises. I came here and I set up mobile courts so that on the environmental day, everybody must be seen working. Even if you were sitting in your veranda not working, we will prosecute you. You must bring out the debris in your house, clean the neighborhood, and be part of the process. And it was working. And we used to mobilize 50 youths from different communities to get involved. Sometimes the bulk of the work is in the local government headquarters, because that's where I am.
Yes.
And there is a generating set that generates power in the local government.
Yes.
The maintenance cost for the generator in the period was not wise for me. So we took the bold step to buy a generator, and that cost was written off. So those maintenance cost money became extra money to buy something else. We had issues of allowances and claims continuously being paid.
Yes.
To everybody. I created a fixed lump 1.5 million to cater for that, and I said if you go serially and rotationally as I prioritize, and I gave that to the HPM to manage with his workers.
Yes.
And we saved some from that end to deal with other government encumbrances. Now, there were the issues of impresses for local government chairman, members, political office holders, and I put a hold on it. I said we take our salary and leave the impress for development. For instance, I have an impress that is about 650. In the last 1 year, I have not collected any. It's strange, but I needed those money to prove a point. That's my legitimate right.
Yes.
Now, because I am the approving officer for my impress, a corrupt person can give himself a 2 million monthly impress, which will flag off suspicion. So you need to be guided by what you approved. I did not approve the 650 for myself. It was what the former chairman 3 years ago used that I adopted 5 years after, because she was out for 2 years. It was a transition before we came in. And then when we saw that we could not pay, we put it on the table. So myself and all the principal officers did not. What we started doing was responding to what we need at a point. So if I need to fuel, we just provide for fuel. If we need to buy a stationary secretary, we provide for it. If we need to hold an emergency meeting, we provide for it, rather than just pay whether we are holding or not. So we saved some small money there. And then we were very focused in doing small possible projects. So there was no white elephant project. If you were embarking on the white elephant project, you can steal money through the projects. We looked at the project, the director will cost it. If it's going to go to tender, it is awarded, and then we follow it and make sure it is delivered in real time.
Yes.
Because we knew we're not going to be here forever. But that is also an individual decision to make. I will not be able to speak for other local government chairmen around the world or within Nigeria if they don't steal money. But I can assure you that they are not able to steal money as is being insinuated, if anyone at all is stealing money. Because EFCC will come intermittently. ICPC comes intermittently, code of
Oh,
conduct comes.
what do you mean intermittent? They just come in to check your
They
books?
they can just, somebody just writes a letter.
Yes.
Anybody in the street writes a letter to FCC and your doorstep the next day. And they will go through you, they will ruffle you in and out. Local government, like some of my colleagues have been going to EFCC over Shopee. Not that they did not do it, they did it, but somebody petitioned, and so they have to answer, and they have been going in and out, the books are being checked. Code of conduct will come, the State House Assembly is on your neck, all these are check and balances.
Yes.
You have an audit system in the government where you have an internal auditor auditing everything that you approve to make sure it's conformed with the books. So there's a due process desk in the local government. Then you have the external auditor that audits whatever the internal auditor has audited. And that one is not under your control, it's from the state. They post those ones there to check you. Then you have the local government auditors that the governor can direct at any time to audit the council account. Then you have the governor himself who knows what he releases
to you.
And so if there are issues about funding, he's able to say, why is this not working? And then a flag is raised. So unless there's a massive conspiracy, maybe at the level of the entire
everybody, yes.
And then if you let us imagine a local government who wants to steal 5 million naira or 10 million naira, so he has to bribe with another 5 million naira to steal 10 million naira. It doesn't add up.
Yes,
it doesn't add up if you have conscience. Yeah. So, but I know certain local governments have wonderful security votes based on the security challenges they have. Some have wonderful impresses based on the available resources. But the law allows you to define what your impress is based on your workforce and what you're doing. So maybe some are able to load up their impresses for that. But here in Patani, the people will ask questions. It's also difficult. A chairman is seated with 2015 councillors who think he's a thief. Legislative arm in local government is always thinking that the chairman is a thief. So if you buy a new shoe, you have to explain.
Yes, they'll be eyeing the shoe.
The chairman just bought a new shoe now. Let's say don't take some money. Then they start looking for all the books and the papers
for the loophole. Yes.
And everybody have access to the government documents in the local government. You're photocopying. People are keeping their own copies to make sure that what you said yesterday is what you're doing today. Once you change it, say, chairman, now so you talked before. Those things are there. Yes. Now for me, it's simple. I came into the office with a lot of integrity and public respect. I am willing to live with those integrity intact. I will not for any reason compromise the process such that my integrity will be mortgaged for a transient office that possibly I may not have aspired for. So I've kept my head on my shoulders, tough as it is, to follow due process in all that I've done. Now, we are not supposed to be perfect. There may have been areas where we have not met perfection, but we have followed the due process to the letter.
Join us again after the break. Welcome back. My concluding moments now with Dr. Chris Ekiyor, the chairman of Patani local government area of Delta State, that's in the south-south region of Nigeria. Now, you know, a lot of people say that the local government system is the nearest to the people. That's the government that provides the most benefits to the people. Do you think the local government system is overrated?
No, I think that the founding fathers of our constitution designed it in such a manner as you have described it, such that local governments are actually with the people, and they should deal with the issues of the people. Unfortunately, the polity has changed that. More powers have been put in the hands of the federal government and then the state government, to the detriment of the local government. So, and then the local government is more of a glorified office with green pen, executive paraphernalia, but you are not able to do what you should ordinarily do. But what we have is that the federal government in its magnanimity have taken certain responsibilities off in its exclusive leaves. It has put those things as, for instance, primary health care. But we as the local government have to fund the activities of a parastatal that has been created for us. Take the UBE, Universal Basic Education. It is expected that the federal government and the state government and local government are contributing to manage. But when you put the schools there, and the state government build the schools, employ the teachers, set up the pedestal, and after 3 years or 5 years, the maintenance falls back to the local government. Because if you work in a local government and the principal comes, or the people come, or the headmaster comes and says, our roof has been removed by the rain, and you don't want to wait until the state government will come and look at it, get a BOQ. You have to immediately intervene. Or when you get to school and they don't have writing boards, their environment is
no chairs,
no water. You don't want to wait and say it's state government responsibility. The law says local government should support.
Yes.
So in supporting, we have almost practically taken over because we now pay the teacher's salary. Now, what has happened with the e-payment is that you can't even control the teachers you pay. They are at home. At the end of the month, the money is deducted at source and it's paid to their account. Whether they teach or not, they get paid. Now, you can't even fire
a teacher.
Even the LEA secretary that you have appointed, your power stops with his appointment. You can no longer remove him. So if you appoint someone who now becomes deviant, you can't even change him in the process.
And he knows that.
He knows that by the law. You only can appoint. Once it's ratified, your power ceases. So you really are not in control of the education system, but you are paying for it. Now the same thing with workers. You have workers that have been employed who have no reason to be employed in the first instance because they have been overemployed. So when you say, why are you not coming to work? They say, I don't have an office, I don't have a schedule. And you say, government is paying for your time, then they litter or loiter in the entire area and constitute nuisance. So the complexity of managing governance at the local government is such that you need to broaden the scope, give local government autonomy, reverse the trend of funding. Local government should be getting more.
More than even the state?
Than the federal.
Yes.
The federal should concentrate on national security, national health programs, federal roads, federal emergencies, railways, shipping lines, airlines, the police, and all those other areas. Unfortunately, I do not subscribe to state police. I do not, and I have my reasons. My reasons are very clear, and I say if you want to look at it, look at DSECs. What they call it, state electoral commissions.
Yes.
They are 80% of the time rubber stamp because they are funded by the government, the state, and the government can dictate what happens. And that's what happened in the police. Now, the federal police provides some level of check and balance. So I'm a pro-one police force with the way it is, but well-funded. I have always believed that there are 774 local governments. Each of these can have a full functional division, a full functional
police force,
mobile base, a full functional mechanical unit, even a full functional clinic with emergencies, and with a minimum of 100 men. Because the police force, 1,000 men, the police force is not, with a barrack in place. So you can call a particular division and say, take care of this security arrangement, and it's done. So, but until we structure our country in that manner, what the federal government is doing is too many. It has its hand, 10 fingers in 10 pies, that they don't see the need to enhance the capacities. But I can tell you, even the federal police in the local government is maintained by the local government.
As well.
Even the federal JTF posted to the local government for security is maintained in addition to whatever the federal government does by the local government.
What of all the agencies that are in the
Of course, that's where I was coming at. Most local governments in the country have to provide accommodation for all the government, federal or state parastatals that are located within. Because if you wait for the process of the bureaucracy of getting the government to build an office for the immigration, for instance, it will take a lifetime. They have not finished building their main office in Asaba or Warri, and they have to build 25, for instance. So the encumbrances of governance is such that we're meshed, interwoven, and we have to fill the gaps at local government level for whatever federal or state parastatal that has to come in. Even voters' education that has to be done must be funded. The primary health immunization, we get the vaccines free, but we need to move them to places. We need to pay for the people who do the immunization. We need to engage hard hoc staff to cover. We need to, in this area, rent boats, and those costs are enormous. Sometimes they are even more expensive than
In 2011, you contested for the Federal House of Representatives. It's obvious to me that you have no interest in, coming back to Patani local government area. What next for you politically?
Angela, I've always said that the political space is so big for everybody to aspire.
You are qualified to contest for any
office, but I have had plenty confrontational political experiences, and I've not had a break for a while. From being a student union president to IYC president to running a very tough election. Never at that time happened here with an incumbent who had been in the National Assembly for 12 years. It was a tough one. And then to being a transitional chairman at a time that you need to rebuild a community. And I said to myself, my primary concern in 2011 is to make a governor of Delta State who would live the dreams of Deltans, build on the legacies of Odua, and surpass his legacies, support Mr. President Dr. Goodluck Jonathan in 2015, and ensuring that his transformation agenda are lived up to 2019.
Yes.
And in doing that, I do not want to see myself also struggling for a space in the contest. I want to give the energy to ensuring that what we want, I will be vocal for a man that I believe in.
Yes.
I will campaign, I will mobilize supporters across the country and make sure that we deliver our dreams. And in doing that, there's so many areas in the space where we cannot get into. And the beauty about our party, the PDP, is that if you are not given this, or if you don't contest here, you're likely to be remembered here to play a role. And all I wait for is a clarion call for national service.
Right, but in the spirit of zoning now within Delta State, is it time for an Ekiyor governor, you think? Can that ever happen?
You know, the irony of zoning is very controversial. It is not in the books. It's a gentleman's arrangement. So each time things are zoned, a group of people will still say, well, that's zone or not, we are interested.
Yes.
Yeah, but my understanding is that Delta Central has produced a governor, Delta South has produced one, and Delta North is aspiring to produce one. And it is correct, correctly so. But it doesn't stop Delta Central and Delta North, Delta South, from also aspiring.
Yes.
What will now happen is for Deltans to say, if fair is fair, we will work for it. Government North to balance it out.
Yes.
You know, even when Delta Central wanted to be governor, Delta South contested, Delta North contested. Even when the current incumbent governor was to run, Delta North contested. So you don't expect anybody to have a field day and say we have zones, so it's strictly for our own.
Yes.
It's not going to work that way. You can continue to shout it for political sympathy, but it just who are interested will contest. Robos who are interested will contest. It's not left for you to, you know, it's a chessboard to be able to win over people from other regions to make your mark. Because I remember in 1999, everybody contested. In 2003, everybody contested. In 2007, everybody contested. In 2011, everybody contested. I remember in 2007, Ijos were contesting, Robos were contesting, the Delta Igbos were contesting.
Yes.
In 2011 was the same thing. Delta South, the Ogboro was there, Central, battling out. Omagige was there, battling it out. And Obielum was there. You have all these people. In fact, in 2007, Okwa was there.
Yes, Senator.
So you can, if you look at history, you find out that even though in principle there is some subtle understanding of zoning, candidates will always throw themselves up from all the zones. So I am not bashed by the fact that any Ekiyor man is indicating interest. When Deltans decide
who they want,
we will all fall in line and work
for that person.
But I do not want us to whip tribal sentiment that the Ijos have not been governor before. There are so many ethnic nationalities who have not been governor before.
Yes.
The Isokos have not been governor before. The Aniomas have not been governor before. You don't want to whip that. The only governors we've had are the Robos and the Shekiris.
Yes.
So when you whip tribal sentiment, then people will begin to argue on the point of their tribe. That I want my tribe to have not been. We should look at it holistically. This is Delta State. What is fair? Are we comfortable with this Delta South, Delta North, Delta Central arrangement? Should we leave it to ease the pressure of politics? Those are the kind of questions we will answer. And I believe strongly that I will be a stakeholder in all of this. I will drive a process, and my voice will be heard, and it will be heard so strong when the time comes.
And you said you will work for the current president, Goodluck Jonathan. What do you say to those who think he hasn't done enough to warrant him seeking a second term?
Now, my relationship with Mr. President is multiple-fold. One, I have known him from 1997 from a distance. I got close to him in the early 2000s. And I have seen a man who is calm, cool, and calculated. And a lot of Nigerians don't seem to understand that aspect of Mr. President. And they take that for granted. Particularly social media is awash with all kind of falsehood. But I have also seen a couple of presidents. Buhari first, Babangida, Abacha, Shenokon, Abdulsalam, Obasanjo, and then Yaradua. And I have done my own research. I have looked at the activities of all these presidents. And I make bold to say that President Goodluck Jonathan is rebuilding Nigeria. The same Nigeria that was strong and reliable, that was battered and shattered by some of all these former leaders, either by way of omission or commission. So they could have been looking at new frontiers and forgetting that we need to build on what we had and sustain the infrastructure and the economy. And then we had decaying infrastructure, decaying government policies and bureaucracy bottleneck created a scenario where nothing was working. And there came Yaradua who said, look, I need to start to build. And he had with him a Jonathan who was calm, supportive. So Jonathan knew what Yar'Adua wanted. He also, coming from the background of Nigeria Delta, knew what the Nigeria Delta people wanted. He's dealt with the issue of subsidy. People don't like it. He's dealing with it. He's dealing with the issue of unbundled NMPC. He has dealt with the issue of infrastructure. Roads are at its best today in the history of the country. After the 70s, when we had those flyovers and all those fantastic roads being built. This is the next time in the history of Nigeria, in 50 years, that we are doing what we're doing. Rebuilding roads, dualizing roads, building new roads. I saw railway as a growing child in Port Harcourt, probably in the 80s. It is back on the rail tracks. People do trains to Kano, and I saw recently on TV commissioning the AC trains in Lagos. Better trains, more functional, and I'm seeing the Abuja rail project to Kaduna running now. The airports, I cannot remember since I started flying in the late 90s if anybody bothered about the airport. Most of our airports were like junkyards. Yeah. So when you travel internationally, you're returning to Nigeria, you're like a mechanic workshop in an airport. I have seen under Jonathan a facelift of the airports.
Yes, but some people will say that one of his flaws is sticking with ministers who are not performing.
Well, I will concede to that argument that he needs to do more. He needs to fire and hire to achieve his goal. I will not disagree with that. You don't keep a man because you are emotionally attached to the person not performing. To deliver for a country like Nigeria that is vehemently in a hurry, you have to hit the ground running. And if you are running and the minister under you is not running with you, you need to
leave the minister behind.
Get someone to run at your pace. Otherwise, I think more of the challenges he has had been with bad policy implementers, bad ministers. Even the information challenge has to do with a lot with his information people.
Yes.
They need to improve on how to give Nigerians facts and figures as it is real time so that they don't give room for rumor mongering.
Yes.
Those are not happening. I've also seen a president who is sensitive to the security challenge of Nigeria. People think that Boko Haram is my. It is not. It is a global terrorist thing. It is beyond what people look at it. They probably think it's some group of Islamic sect who are doing, but it's clear now. They're going to kill Muslims anyway. They don't care whether Islam or Christian. They just kill people. But he has been systematic to at least enclose them. Yeah, once in a while, in the guerrilla warfare, there will be a loose cannon, a leakage somewhere, somebody blows up a bomb somewhere unexpectedly. Yeah. But I can tell you, if we didn't have a president who had his toes on the ground, would have been a full-blown war. He's containing it technically and diplomatically. And I see a president who's listening. But he needs to do more in the area of industrialization, which he is working on. They need to speed up the gap so the industries can be burning and running, and then they can employ. We need to do more in the area of building refineries. Those are the areas I think Mr. President needs to now look inwards. If we must stop this subsidy, we must build refineries. Because if we refine our products, we will have no need to import or to subsidize.
Yes.
So, and once you build refineries, the petrochemical industries will spring up, more jobs will
employ
be created.
People.
We need to do more of gas gathering. The LNG bras need to kick off. And if it's possible, the LNG or local land needs to kick off. All this will provide jobs for young engineers, young people. And then the cotton mills, which he is working on, needs to be rolling. The federal hospitals are being remodeled, taken over, and diagnosis centers being developed. Now we have had a national emergency on the Ebola. It is our responsibility to deal with it and be guarded. The infrastructure that we are building, billions and billions have been put into dam constructions in the north. Massive dams, the Mabila dams and all those other dams, Shiroro dams for power generation. So investment is going on. The Almajiri schools have been built. I think that he is a president who is holistic in his view, but taking one step at a time to make sure that mistakes are minimal.
Yes.
And that's the patience that Nigerians need to give to him. He's criticized. Yes, he should be criticized. For me, Mr. President should see that as the reason why he should live up to the challenges and do more and let posterity vindicate him. But trust me, there cannot be a better president than Goodluck at this time. You need to have a man who is cool, calm and calculated with that amount of patience and temerity to deal with the complexity of our country. Anything else would have been lopsided and there could have been a conflict because everybody is depressed and the pressure is up, everybody is angry with one another. Everybody is angry with one another. So you can see it even in the body language of the opposition party. They don't address issue, they deal with persons, and in solving conflict, you must not address the people, you must deal with the issues. What are the issues to be addressed? And that's why I respect Governor Fashola of Lagos State. He's a man of more who deals with issues rather than persons. Again, I want to emphasize, it's not about Goodluck being a PDP or Fashola being an APC, it's about a personality. which they carry.
Yes. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Ekiyor, for having us in Patani local government area for the last 3 days and finding time in between to take us around and host us. Thank you very much. Well, that's it for this week. Don't forget to watch this program and other past episodes on our YouTube channel. That's www.youtube.com/TEDTV60. That's youtube.com/TEDTV60. You may also like 60 Minutes with Angela on Facebook. Alternatively, follow me on Twitter, Angela at 60 Minutes. I'm Angela Ajitumobi. I thank you for the pleasure of your company.